Okay, now we're calling the meeting to order, 8:33 a.m. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Go ahead. Sorry.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Mark. Again, thank you, everyone, for taking the time this morning to be here and part of this meeting. We have some special guests. I'll let Mark introduce those in a moment. What I'd like to do first is have Mark go through and introduce the individuals that are on the call, and then we can go to reading in the acceptance of the minutes, please. Mark?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for those joining us, this is the Fairfield Economic Development Commission meeting of Thursday, December 3rd. The meeting was called to order by Chairman Kevin Lesko. Also on the call this morning are Commissioners John Slavin, Don Peterson, Steve Rosado. We also have a recording secretary, Gretchen Gerthner, and Beverly Ballas, representing the Fairfield Chamber of Commerce. Also on the call are Executive Director of MetroCog, Matt Fulda. Is there anyone else that has joined late that would like to introduce themselves so we can have that for the record?
Yes. Hi, Mark. It's Patrick Carlton with MetroCog as well.
Hey, Patrick. Patrick, for those of you members of the Commission and others listening in, Patrick's the Deputy Director of MetroCog. So we'll turn things over to Matt and Patrick in just a minute to talk about the regional SEDS process, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. Anyone else joining us? Okay, hearing none.
Elise here.
Oh, Elise? Great.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. So we also have Commissioner Elise Fatherly as well. So we have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent.
I guess the next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our November 5th meeting.
That is correct. Do I have a motion to approve last month's meeting minutes?
So moved. This is Don.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Okay. So I think we've gotten that part done. We have an approval of the minutes from last month. And let's move right along because I think we have a lot to talk about.
Okay.
Mark?
I'll just give a brief overview before I turn things over to our guest presenters this morning, where we stand with regard to our response on the COVID-19 pandemic. As many of you know, we have launched and had for some time now a small business assistance program providing direct financial assistance in the form of mini grants to eligible businesses located in Fairfield that have been impacted adversely by the pandemic. We've received 83 applications to date, of which we've approved 65 and committed $241,725 to date. Majority of those are businesses that either provide employment for or the owners themselves are persons of low moderate income satisfying a national objective under the terms of the funding, which is originating through the Community Development Block Grant Program, which is a HUD-administered federal grant. We do have money still remaining in the account. We have one application that we just received yesterday that the committee has not yet had a chance to review. It's a pretty diverse group of businesses that have availed themselves of this program. About 20% are in retail trade. Another 20% are in food service industries. But we also have representation from fitness providers, beauty salons and barbershops, personal services, professional services, entertainment, education, and the like. So it's a pretty diverse group, 65 to date. We are anticipating receiving or have been notified that we will receive an additional roughly $300,000 as part of a second round of supplemental community development block grant funding under the terms of the CARES Act, which was passed back in March. HUD just recently advised us of this, and we did go out, provide a notice of funding availability to past and current grant recipients, and are in the process of presenting our proposed allocation plan to the Board of Selectmen next Monday's meeting and to the RTM later this month. assuming that they approve that, we will have some additional dollars, roughly $75,000 that will replenish monies available for small business grants. And I think as Don Peterson has been the liaison to that committee, we have also received a small grant from the United Illuminating Connecticut, Southern Connecticut Gas for $10,000 that would go towards supplemental assistance to help with cost of PPE and other modifications so that businesses can safely reopen and operate. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Obviously, we're going through, as is the country, an upsurge in activity. We're hopeful that we won't have to resort to any further business shutdowns or lockdowns, but obviously there are some impacts already being felt with some restrictions, curfew in effect for restaurant operations, and obviously capacity limits and the like. So we'll just have to, continue to monitor that situation and work with our existing business base. So I'll entertain any questions at this time, and then if not, I will move on to our feature presentation. Questions?
Mark, have you had any feedback from the restaurants about the time that has been restricted? Have they kind of worked things out? Has the impact not been as bad as they thought it might have been initially?
Well, I think there are obviously concerns. There's greater anxiety about what may come, what the other shoe that may drop. So I think everyone's trying to make the best of it. Obviously, people are not happy with where we are, but we are where we are. So not much we can do about it at this juncture. Certainly, the trend lines are not going the right direction for further relaxation of those restrictions. So I would say that there's more anxiety about where we are and where we're heading, and whether that might require additional restrictions than where we are currently. So I think that's the bigger issue.
Have there been any violations from the health department on the topic, or has it been, for the most part, the restaurants have been abiding by the law?
I would say the vast majority are doing the right thing and doing what they need to do to comply with the sector guidance and guidelines from public health agencies. There are exceptions, and I think probably not a day goes by that we don't get a complaint from someone or groups of folks talking about individual businesses or other gathering spots. There was one just the other day, somebody complaining about a fitness provider where people were not wearing masks as they should be, and it was causing an issue, at least in their mind. So the health department is responding to those, and I think for the most part, trying to work with businesses to bring them into compliance or provide guidance, and we're trying to do the same, as opposed to if it's really egregious, as was the case with a couple isolated instances, they have the capacity to shut people down, and they've done that. Other questions from folks? Okay. I'd like to, I think many of you probably know Matt Fulda and Patrick Carlton from MetroCog. Matt's the executive director. Patrick's is right-hand man, if you will, second in command. But I invited Matt and Patrick to today's meeting and call to discuss the development of a regional comprehensive economic development strategy. It's been some time since the region undertook an effort like this. Obviously, and I'll have Matt and Patrick explain what it is and why it's important for us to do this, but it's the first time that the region's come together in some years to put together a regional strategy around economic development. One of the obvious benefits is it does help the region and individual projects qualify for potential funding through the Economic Development Administration, the federal government. But there's other reasons, obviously, for us to come together and develop a regional plan as it relates to economic development, just so that we're all singing off the same sheet of music, so to speak. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Matt and Patrick and invite them to give us a brief update on the SEDS process and go from there. Matt, Patrick?
Sure. Thank you, Mark. And thank you for the introduction. This is Matt Fola. As Mark said, I'm the Executive Director of MetroCog. We are, for those of you who don't know us, we are the regional planning agency for the greater Bridgeport region, which includes City of Bridgeport, Town of Fairfield, obviously, Stratford, Trumbull, Monroe, and Easton. We're very thankful for Mark and the Commission for allowing us to come speak with you this morning in regards to our ongoing planning work for the creation of a comprehensive economic development strategy, also known as a SEDS. As Mark mentioned, there was a previous SEDS for our region, and actually it extended all the way down through coastal Fairfield County. That was completed back in, I think, 2011 or 2010. Unfortunately, that plan, when it was created, kind of just sat idly by from then until now. The plan was submitted to EDA for approval. I believe it was approved, but one of the requirements of a SEDS is having an ongoing kind of updating process and a committee that's going to continue to move that planning document forward. And that never really happened with the previous one. So a number of years ago, I think 3 or 4 years ago at this point, the newly formed Western Connecticut Council of Governments, which is kind of the western portion of Fairfield County, went out and created a SEDS for their region, kind of overriding the existing SEDS for the coastal Fairfield County. And it was at that time that we decided, at the direction of our board members, to apply for EDA funding through their planning grant process to create a SEDS for our region. So we're really looking forward to this project and this program. We think it's something that's vitally important for the state of Connecticut generally, but certainly for our region. As Mark said, an approved SEDS plan from EDA does unlock the ability for municipalities to tap into EDA funding for specific projects. The types of projects that are funded under that are relatively limited in nature, normally to public works type of infrastructure projects, which is one of the reasons I think the previous plan kind of didn't go anywhere, is it turned into just a list of public works projects. And one of the things that Pat and I and the MetroCog board is trying to be very cognizant of this time is, while we want to identify those projects that might have utility from an economic development standpoint, we also want to use this planning process and the document to really create a comprehensive strategy for the region as we move forward from an economic development standpoint, kind of identifying those sectors where we already have a good population, where we think we can expand in the region, kind of the nexus between some of the industries that exist now and what we might see into the future. So we really want this to be not only something that identifies some potential funding opportunities through EDA, but really just an overall economic development strategy for our region that we can rely on and then continue to update as we move forward. Obviously, something like current ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has a significant effect on economic development and probably will for many years in the future. So we'll be working to kind of build some of that information and some of that logic into this plan, as well as to how we can try to make sure that we are remaining resilient through what might be potential, these types of events moving forward, these sort of acute disruptions to economic development. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We've received the grant from EDA. We're working internally. We did a lot of work internally for the first few months on data gathering and those types of things. We have just brought on a consulting firm out of Boston to help us with the actual drafting and the strategy itself. Pat will speak a little bit more to that. So we're really kind of in the stakeholder, we're really kind of just starting to get into the stakeholder engagement phase, which is why I was really happy that Mark reached out to me and we could come speak to all of you, because we want to really rely on you all and the leaders, the economic development and industry leaders within the region to kind of help move this project and this program forward, so that we are highlighting the right things and the right industries and the right economic development strategies that will benefit the entire region, encompassing all 6 municipalities. So I'm going to turn it over to Pat now to kind of give a little bit more detail specifically on the SEDS. He's kind of running the project out of our office with help from other staff and myself. But I really appreciate the time you've given us today to come talk about this, and we really look forward to working with all of you as we move through this process over the next number of months.
Thank you, Matt. Patrick?
Yes, thank you, Mark, and thank you, Matt, and thank you to the committee for allowing us to speak to you all this morning about the SEDS. Mark and Matt gave a really good overview of the SEDS, so I won't take too much time talking about what it is and that aspect. But I do want to speak to you a little bit about what it includes. So EDA defines the SEDS as basically a economic roadmap that's put together by public and private sectors working together. At a minimum, the plan, or the strategy, I should say, needs to include a summary background of the region, so demographic data, socioeconomic data, economic data, what industries are thriving, what industries seem to be on the decline, things like that. Also a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, a strategic action plan, an evaluation framework, and the incorporation of economic resilience. So those elements are going to be incorporated into our SED strategy. But I think the main thing I really would like to talk to you about is we're really going to be leaning on the economic development committees and the municipal economic development staff to help us form this strategy. As I mentioned earlier, it's about the private sector engagement. So we want to lean on the business folks and the other stakeholders that are really involved in economic development on a day-to-day basis. And so we're going to be, as Matt mentioned earlier, we did bring on a consultant. We'll be working with them to set up one-on-one interviews, focus groups, just larger committee meetings where we could speak to individuals about what's going on from our local economy and what needs to be improved, what can we work on. So that's going to happen over the course of the next 2 to 3 months. Everything is going to be virtual because of COVID, so we're hoping to get a lot of participation that way. In the past, it's definitely hard to get people to come out to meetings, with everything going on. So we're hoping that hosting these virtually will allow your membership to be involved and stay involved. With that, I want to talk maybe just a little bit more about kind of the overall strategic direction and where we want to go. The plan is supposed to focus on the next 10 years. We want to clearly define the visions, and that's going to be done through a series of workshops, focus groups, one-on-one interviews. We want to prioritize goals and come up with a list of measurable objectives, and also come up with basically a matrix about who's going to be the responsible entities, whether it be the private sector or the public sector, to carry out some of these things. What are some cost estimates? How we could fund any specific projects or programs. The one thing I want to say that I think Matt touched on is we just don't want to list the projects, which was done in the past. One Coast, One Future said we want to have more programmatic things that the business community can lean on, maybe help with entrepreneurship, innovation, workforce development, things like that, versus just a list of maybe infrastructure projects that a lot of these plans tend to define. So with that, right now, like I said, we're just getting it. We're starting the process. We just got our consultant, RKG Associates out of Boston, under contract. We have been working on the data collection. We've been working closely with the municipal economic development offices in all 6 towns that we represent to gather that data. We have a lot of internal data in our shop as well that we're able to tap into. And the next steps are we're going to put out a survey that we hope you all will respond to, and also just mail out to any connections you might have that might be interested in being involved in the process, and then setting up those one-on-one interviews and focus groups. And we're going to work with Mark, and we're also going to work with other municipalities to find out who we should be bringing into those conversations. So we hope you all can participate, and we'll find the time to help us draft the strategy, and we'll keep you in the loop on all the deliverables and make sure that you get an opportunity to review them and be a part of the process. So thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Can you just give what's the overall schedule for this? When do you expect to complete the entire set process? I mean, what's the timing there?
So we're kind of under a tight deadline just because our EDA grant was awarded to us late, believe it or not, and they didn't backdate it to give us ample time. So we're hoping, and obviously COVID has thrown a lot of issues into that as well. We're hoping to wrap this all up by the end of June. So that gives us from now, 6 months or so, I would say, to really put everything together. We know that might be a tight timeline. I am in conversations with our project manager at EDA to potentially get an extension to the grant, if that's possible. She's been really great, working with, and hopefully she'll be, amenable to that. But I will have those conversations. So we're not under, too much stress to get this done. Obviously, we want it to play out where everyone's involved and it's not rushed. That's the last thing we want to do. So I'm working on that end to kind of shore up the schedule and maybe extend it out a little bit. So I will definitely keep you posted on that.
Okay.
Patrick, it's Kevin. I did have a question. I might have missed it, but what is the definition of region, the 6 towns or municipalities that you're referring to?
So the greater Bridgeport region, MetroCog region, is the city of Bridgeport and the towns of Fairfield, Easton, Trumbull, Stratford, and Monroe. So those are the 6 communities that we'll work with, and that's a plan the SEDS will address from an economic development standpoint. I think, one thing to note is the SEDS looks at our regional economy in concert with the broader region that includes Stamford, down to New York, and even from a global perspective. So we'll definitely look at that, and our consultant understands that too. So we're going to look at kind of the industries that are strong here and how they relate to maybe a larger, broader region, if that makes sense.
It does. And then was the other grouping, was that referring to the Fairfield County 5?
No. So the previous, Mark, you want to take it, Mark, or I can go do one?
No. Well, I think you were going to say the One Coast SEDS was really the combination of MetroCog, the 6-town region around Bridgeport, and the lower Fairfield County Western COG, the council governments that represents Western Fairfield County, including Stamford, oriented around Stamford, and Norwalk. So we attempted to work together again, but they were, as Matt indicated, certified as a separate planning region. I mean, they are a separate planning region to undertake their own comprehensive economic development strategy. So that kind of forced our hand that we're now pursuing this. As Patrick said, we have to obviously take things in a regional context. So Fairfield 5 is really a marketing initiative that was meant to really highlight Fairfield County as a whole, but was spearheaded by communities of Stamford, Norwalk, Greenwich, Westport, and Fairfield. But the state now has taken more of an interest in terms of coming up with a marketing and communication strategy, not just for the state, but each region of the state. And so they're developing a communication strategy around Fairfield County now too that we're hoping to take advantage of.
And I would add too, Mark, I was just going to say that Pat and I are more than happy to attend future meetings of this group to provide updates. I mean, obviously, as Pat said, we hope that some of you, if not all of you, will be involved in the engagement process. But we are also more than happy at any point to come back and provide updates as to kind of where the plan is, what step we are in the process, and kind of the next pieces that go with it. So, just feel free to keep us involved on that front. We're more than happy to provide continual updates to this group to make sure you know exactly where we are.
I think we'll definitely take advantage of that, Matt. I appreciate that.
Certainly.
I had one more question. in terms of the private sector engagement. I know you went through a similar discussion yesterday at the BRBC meeting, the Economic Development Commission of the Bridgeport Regional Business Council. But in terms of outreach to some of our larger employers and businesses here, including our universities, how does this process, how are you planning to do that?
So, and I'll go ahead, Pat. Why don't you start?
Yeah, so I will say this. So the SEDS needs to have a strategy committee that's primarily made up of private sector representation. We are working with the Economic Development Committee of the BRBC because it's already an established regional committee. And with that, so we're going to engage them as the strategy committee. But our idea is to expand on it because we know there's more parties out there that should be involved. So our idea is to, and we're working with our consultant. They actually gave us a list of stakeholders that we should be reaching out to. So you will see that from us in the near future, where we're going to ask for representations from higher education, from large businesses in each community, smaller businesses, other economic stakeholders, committee members, things like that. So we're going to build on the Economic Development Committee of the BRBC and try to make that expand that out to be a larger committee that consists of all regional stakeholders in the 6 communities.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would just add to that too, Mark, that one of the things we want to make sure we're highlighting and bringing into this plan is that higher education piece. We know that we have a very strong higher education, even though our region is relatively small. Fairfield obviously has 2 very great universities located in them, as well as University of Bridgeport and Housatonic Community College, and that's one of the things we want to make sure that we're identifying and bringing into this comprehensive economic development strategy is the idea that we have these higher education places in the region that need to be probably utilized to an even greater extent from an economic development perspective and a workforce development perspective, and trying to retain people that come here for school and make sure we can try to keep them here to provide opportunities for them after college. That's definitely something that we want to spend some time on for the plan, is looking at that the nexus of higher education and opportunities afterwards or during.
Are there trade schools in the region that you might want to identify and try and incorporate as well?
Yeah, there are. I know there's. I'm pretty sure there's a Porter and Chester Institute is located in Stratford, which we will definitely be reaching out to, because that is another one of those kind of skilled labor types of pools, applicant pools that we want to make sure we're looking at. So that is there's. I know that exists in Stratford definitely, and we'll do some more research as to if there's any other ones in the region. As Pat said too, though, one of the things that our consultant discussed with us is the idea that obviously we want to focus on our 6 towns and the economic development within there, but we know that our economic development is intrinsically tied to a larger regional economic development strategy for all of Fairfield County and really for the all state of Connecticut and the greater tri-state area, really. So while the focus will certainly be on our region, if there are some other opportunities to have some conversations and some engagement with folks that are maybe outside of our region, but that could help provide some information, like you said, like additional trade schools or additional kind of those types of institutions might be something that we're going to look to do as well, just to try to get as much of a background as possible to make sure that our plan is trying to encompass and incorporate all of that, within our regional boundaries and somewhat outside as well.
And I will say too, just on the trade school piece, we'll look at back, and this kind of ties into higher education. We'll work with not only Fairfield University, Sacred Heart University, University of Bridgeport, but Housatonic Community College has a very robust advanced manufacturing institute at the school there. So we'll definitely connect into that resource and get them on board, because we know that there's still definitely a manufacturing presence within our region. Maybe it's more focused on a couple of towns, but that is there, and it's something we're going to want to incorporate into the strategy as well, along with all the other industry sectors that are prevalent in our 6 towns, whether it be financial institutions or things of that nature. So.
Okay. Other questions from the commission members?
Hi, Elise Fadley here. I just wanted to ask you a question about the SWOT analysis. Sounds a lot like it's community-based, based on the businesses, and it reflects a lot. I'm just wondering how much of the SWOT analysis reflects insights from neighbors who actually live in the communities here and in the other towns, or is that something that's going to come later with your data collection and your focus groups?
So the SWOT analysis, it's going to be a kind of mixture of that. We're going to lean on this larger strategy committee that represents business interests and economic development interests throughout the region. But the focus groups, we believe the focus groups are going to be broken out to specific industry sectors where we're going to invite, it's not just going to be members from the strategy committee. It's going to be other folks who have a background in that specific area. So we want to make the SWOT analysis. We want to get the most out of the SWOT analysis. So obviously we're going to look at the past data and the current data, but we're going to want to facilitate those discussions with the people who actually know those areas best. So the strategy committee is what we're going to kind of lead the effort, but in the smaller groups, we're going to try to involve as many community members as possible. And the one thing I will say too is we are going to have the development of a survey, which is going to ask a lot of the questions that are most likely going to be asked in those SWOT analysis discussions, so we can gather that feedback as well. And we're going to work. We've actually already drafted a survey. It's not finished yet. And then we're going to pass that along to our consultant to see if they have any changes to that, and we hope to get that out, relatively soon. I'm thinking probably right after the new year, and we're going to try to maximize our response on that as much as possible and get that out to as many people as we can.
So is the survey and other outreach strictly limited to businesses, or is there an opportunity, as I think Elise was asking, for residents themselves to weigh in on what they see as the economic development issues facing the region?
Yeah, I was going to actually follow up on what Pat was saying there. And I think, to Elise's question, I think, the SEDS itself and the guidelines from EDA want it to be driven by the private sector. That does not mean, though, that we should leave out the general public in this. And one of the things that we talked a little bit about, and I think this conversation even strengthens that discussion more, is that maybe we do want to have a mechanism for that survey to allow for the just general public to respond to it, and have maybe the first question is, are you private sector affiliated, or are you just the general public? We could kind of separate out those responses and see kind of where the private sector responses come versus where the public sector comes, and making sure that we're addressing concerns, desires from the general public as well as the private sector stakeholders. So we know we don't want to drive this solely on the backs of the private sector, because the general public has a lot to say and a lot to do with economic development as well. So we definitely do not want to leave that out of the planning process.
Right, and also just to follow up, my reasoning for this question is because obviously we see so many businesses come and go, and so obviously it's essential to find out what is appealing to the neighboring communities, and what is appealing to the residents, obviously. So
definitely.
And if I can just make one other comment to that, is the EDA does require public comment on the draft plan. So we will have a 30-day public comment period where the public can review everything. It won't be a plan that's just done internally and then it's sits on a shelf and no one sees it. We don't want that process. We're going to engage the public as much as possible and not only allow them to be involved as the strategy is developed, but to review the final product as well before it's sent to EDA for their ultimate approval.
Having been engaged, as I know you have, in a lot of planning processes and plan developments over the years, the process really drives these things. Is critically important to the success of the plan and whether or not it gets successfully implemented down the road. And there needs to be a lot of participation, buy-in, and support for this planning initiative. So I would second what Elite is saying, and I think it's important that we at least provide an opportunity early on to survey or get some public participation as to what they see the broader issues facing economic development, business community, and the like. And as Matt laid out, there might be an opportunity, easy to do it within the survey, to have a kind of a two-leg process that asks the general public for their feedback, and then more specific questions related to the business community.
Yes, I certainly agree with that, Mark. And we are. I appreciate the feedback, at least from you and Mark, on this. And we'll go back and look at the survey that we've kind of started to draft and figure out either if there's a mechanism to just incorporate that, or maybe we create a separate one for the public. We'll figure out what is the best methodology for that. But I certainly think that we want to make sure that we are taking into account the thoughts and ideas of the general public as well, because as you said, they're the ones that are going to be in the region no matter what, and they need to be on board with whatever the economic development strategies are, and do have a pulse on what works and what doesn't from their perspective, which is highly valuable as we work through this process.
Great. Any other lingering questions? That we're running over.
We are.
John had to leave, but go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, just a comment more than anything else is that each of these municipalities are going to have their own focuses. It would actually be really nice to have each one of them express that, to find out where the commonalities would be, because I would imagine that Bridgeport's going to want to have certain things, and Fairfield's going to have certain things, and Stratford, and we want to minimize our competitiveness to each other in order to drive a more common good. So will you, as you're putting together this processes, be able to draw the commonalities to the region?
Yes, I think that will be part of the planning process, and as Pat said, via the individual or focus group stakeholder meetings, as well as the survey, we'll make sure that there's an identification of which municipality that the survey respondent is from, so that we can kind of aggregate that data on a municipal by municipal level, and look for those commonalities and those dichotomies between the towns, and kind of understand better where the focus from each municipality is. And as you said, I think the idea of the commonalities between those and the differences, and trying to identify both of those, I think is a big part of this process. As you said, to make sure that we're providing the greatest possible platform for economic development, but also encouraging the best types for each municipality as they see fit.
Excellent.
All right.
Well, thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you, guys. Matt and Patrick, I appreciate your participating in today's conversation. I know what you have. You also have a handout that I think I can distribute to the commission members that explains a little bit more about the SEDS process, so I can send that out to the commission for their review.
That'd be great.
Continue the conversation.
Yeah, no, and thank you very much, Mark, and the commission for having us. We really appreciate your willingness to let us speak today, and look forward to continue coordinating with you on this effort over the next handful of months. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thanks. Look forward to talking to you.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Thank
so
you so much.
I believe next on our list is the holiday promotions. So now, is that going to be you, Mark, or is that going to be Beverly, or a combination thereof?
And probably a combination thereof, and I'll just keep it short. So today is our 8th annual holiday stroll in downtown Fairfield from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. We have a number of businesses that are participating. We weren't quite sure that we'd be able to pull this off given public health guidance, but I think based on the success we had with the sidewalk sale with similar restrictions in place, we felt comfortable going ahead with the program. Obviously, we've scaled it down quite a bit and eliminated some of the aspects that might not be consistent with public health guidance at the moment, in terms of having hors d'oeuvres and refreshments at individual stores and having caroling taking place. But it does provide an opportunity for folks who are looking to do a little bit of holiday shopping to get out and buy local. And it builds on the traffic we saw after Thanksgiving with Black Friday and Small Business Saturday. So Beverly and I were both out on the green on Small Business Saturday from 10 to 2. We had a small booth there and handed out complimentary shopping bags and coupons for participating stores and other giveaways and goodies. And we saw a steady stream of traffic, so it was heartening to see people out and about, everyone wearing masks and acting appropriately in terms of maintaining social distancing. But people were doing their holiday shopping locally, which is certainly great news. And it gave us an additional platform also, as you know, and Beverly can talk to this, to further publicize our Buy Local Community e-gift card program that the Chamber launched this past month, and just in time for the holiday shopping season. So I think we're up to 65 businesses that are now participating in the program. So the great thing about this is you don't have to really discern or know fully, if a person is really difficult to buy for. You don't know which stores they like to shop or what restaurants they like to frequent. You can buy a gift card that's good at any number of, more than 65 Fairfield businesses, including many of our great restaurants and shops, both downtown and elsewhere. So it's really takes some of the guesswork out of that stressful buying process. And really want to thank Beverly Ballas and Krista McCormick from the Chamber, who have really taken the lead on this and really rolled out this program, I think, seamlessly to great success. And so I don't know, Beverly, would you like to add anything on that?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. No, you've recapped it very, very well. But just to give you some statistical information, as Mark mentioned, we have 65 businesses and or restaurants enrolled in the program. And currently, to date, people have purchased a little over $5,000 in gift cards. So we're excited about that. My goal is really to reach 10 by the end of December. But this is money that will stay in Fairfield and be spent in Fairfield. So that is what is so special about this e-gift card program. The group that we're working with, their name is YIFTY, and they track all of the statistics and analysis on this program. So that's what's really wonderful about it. And, as we enter into the new year, not only is this perfect for the holidays, but it is a year-round program where these gift cards can be used for high school graduations, college graduations, anniversaries, birthdays, whatever, and we will continue to heavily market this program each month going forward. So we're excited. We're watching it closely and encourage everyone to come to the Chamber website. We have a tab there that says gift cards, and to purchase one, it's really easy to do, and again, it really keeps our dollars local. So thank you, Mark.
Well, thank you, Bev. Any questions from commission members? Hopefully, we have good weather today, so that's good. Hopefully, we'll get some folks that are walking around the downtown doing some shopping and supporting our local businesses. So I appreciate all of your help and support.
Yeah, Mark, what I forgot to mention to you is WeBe and ICC will be promoting this for us because we usually work with them for the Health and Fitness Expo. And since we're not having it in March, we asked them if they could flip it, and they said yes. So I'm writing a 30-second copy, and that should really help in the marketing and promotion of the program.
Awesome.
That's great. Beverly, just a quick question on the gift cards or so is it better for the Chamber to have a check in purchasing these cards, or does it matter that it's by credit card? Because there is a couple of percent that is lost in that purchase, going from like a business buying these cards for someone from the chamber?
So if someone were to buy a gift card, the face value stays the same. There is an overlay of a processing fee on that, just like if we went down to Rite Aid or CVS and bought a gift card there. So the purchase process is best by using a credit card for that. The important thing to remember is that you need the person who, if you're buying it for yourself, you would just key in your cell phone number. If you're buying it for someone else, then you would put their cell phone number into the processing piece of it, or their email, so it will go directly to them. And most people are using their cell phones for this. So I don't know if I answered your question properly.
You did. I'm reading between the lines. I get it. Okay, that's fine. Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're able to see, honestly, daily, how many have been purchased, at what unit price, all of that. So the technology is fantastic.
Well, that's great. Very good.
Yeah.
Anyone have any other questions for Beverly at this time? And then, Beverly, do you have anything else that you wanted to add while we have your attention going forward?
No, that's the focus right now.
Okay.
That's our main focus right at this point in time. So, no, okay. But thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
I know the Chamber is working to schedule John Traynor and the first selectwoman to reprise their roles as part of the Economic Outlook Breakfast, which will be held virtually sometime after the new year. I don't think we have a date yet, right, Beverly? We're looking at January, February timeframe.
I'm waiting to hear back from Brenda's office, either January 27th or the 28th. It'll be a morning meeting from 8 to 9:30.
Well, I'll keep everyone posted once that date is scheduled, because I know a lot of you like to attend that. A lot of good information from John and from others, Brenda included, as part of that breakfast. And it's always one of the more highly anticipated and well-attended events the Chamber puts forth. So I'll keep everyone posted on that date.
Yes, thank you for that. Yes.
Thank you. And Mark, that's actually a good lead. There's a lot of good information and bringing to you. Could you bring us an update on developments that are going on around the town at this time?
Yeah. So, I think I reported last month that we're, well off. We had a fairly robust year. A lot of activity last year. So we're all off last year's pace. We're probably, in terms of building permit activity, commercial related, we're roughly a third of where we were from a valuation standpoint in terms of building permits issued this past year, and with basically 1 month left to go in the calendar year. So there are some things in the pipeline. I think those of you who do attend the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings regularly know that there are several projects that are pending approval or being proposed, including a proposed hockey arena at Sacred Heart. That's been in the works now for some time, and now there's been a formal application made to Planning and Zoning, which will be scheduled for a public hearing probably after the new year, I suspect. We have a number of other projects that are waiting commission review and approval. I did talk to the developer of Fairfield Metro Center, the site there, Crossings at Fairfield, which was approved earlier this year by Planning and Zoning. They still are awaiting approval from the State Traffic Commission, Office of State Traffic Administration now. So they have an application certificate pending, as does Cinto, which is a Jewish home for the elderly. That proposed development, which was approved earlier this year for the Thorpe Street address where Fairfield Lumberyard used to be. So both those projects more than likely will begin to take shape and break ground next year. With, in the case of Fairfield Metro, some site work that needs to take place on the site. I think they're looking to do that as soon as they get the approvals. And then I know that for the Thorpe Street property, really looking to start construction first quarter next year and bring that to completion in the following year, 2022. So one of the things as part of the set process that the planning group has asked, MetroCog and their consultant has asked, is kind of a recap or a summary of projects in the pipeline. So I usually put that together anyway, both for our own internal tracking purposes, but also we provide that information to our utility companies so they can plan accordingly, and we'll provide the same information to MetroCog in the formation of the comprehensive economic development strategy. So that is it for the most part. There are a lot of it's a challenging environment right now, but I think overall we've seen most businesses holding their own. Always the first quarter of the new year is a shakeout time, especially in retail. If you don't make your numbers through the holiday season, a lot of businesses rely upon that activity for the fourth quarter in order to decide whether or not to continue in operations in the following year. So even in the best of times, we do see some businesses close in the January-February time frame. So we're holding our breath and crossing our fingers and hoping for the best. I mean, it hasn't been easy, but I know a lot of the small businesses here are very resourceful and have been very creative in terms of trying to keep their doors open and sustain business activity in the face of this pandemic. So happy to take any questions folks may have on particular sites if there are any.
Was there an update on the Beach Road development?
It's still pending. So they closed the hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission, I think, is probably up against their required due diligence period, where they have to make a decision, I think, by the next meeting or two. So I would expect a decision in December. They have a meeting next Tuesday, so it may come now.
Okay, thank you. All right, so
and the only other thing I had on our agenda today, other than addressing any questions, is our meeting schedule for 2021, which I sent out, proposing to hold the same meeting date, the first Thursday of each month. I think we'll have to continue to hold these virtually for the time being, and if that's okay, I'll file that information with the town clerk so that they know when we intend to meet.
So can I have a motion for approval of next year's schedule?
Motion to approve. This is John.
Excellent. A second on that?
Second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, excellent. So, Mark, I think we're in good shape on that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
And then,
I can answer?
I
know we're running really late.
But 9:30 call coming up.
Thank you, John.
Okay. All right. So I guess with all of that, I'll ask for a motion to close the meeting. But I also want to wish everyone a very happy and healthy holiday, and look forward to hearing from you in January.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, Kevin.
Same to you guys.
Excellent.
Everyone.
Okay. All right.
Thank you
Well,
all.
with that,
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.